Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's exciting show, where we'll be discussing the official launch of Google Stadia with our hands-on impressions and our experiences so far. So without further delay, on to the show. Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 9 of the Sounds of Stadia podcast. I'm joined by my usual co-hosts in the hot seats this week, our talented techie teacher all the way from the Midlands, Mr. Tom, and the man with the breezy beard by the sea, where they have many pixels, Richie.
Hello there.
Hello, welcome to the show, gentlemen. Now, without even asking, I know you've all had some interesting weeks because a certain date we've all been waiting for has finally arrived. After a year of excitement, build-up, and hype, people wondering what's going to be new, how it's going to have an impact on the bigger picture, we can finally say Frozen 2 is out in cinemas now.
Yay!
Go see it for this lovely Christmas time of the year. Of course, I don't really mean that. Well, I mean, it is out, but I didn't mean to lean on that. You've not came here for a Frozen podcast after all. So hopefully all you listeners out there too are well aware that Google Stadia is alive and well, and it exists, everyone.
And we've got our codes.
We've got our codes. Tom?
It's a miracle.
Christmas Frozen miracle. But I think before we dive into all the excitement and the tasty Stadia chat we've got for you this week, we are all of us wanted to start by announcing a new fresh update for our listeners out there who've listened and supported us from the beginning. So in line with the Stadia launch, we've also launched a new Patreon tier. So for everyone who enjoys the show and actually takes the time to listen to our views on the week's Stadia news and our overall cheesy banter, we've started a new tier. So for as little as 78 pence or $1 if you're on the other side of the pond, if you're in one of those many states that we do take time to cover each episode, and I hope you do appreciate it, please head on over to patreon.com/Sounds of Stadia and throw us some silver if you can spare it. Oh, 78 pence, that couldn't even buy anything nowadays. But we really do appreciate it, and we hope you'll get on board with our kind of future goals and where we want to take this podcast. But fear not, if you don't have the change to spare, you can still catch us on all of our free feeds, and YouTube is still there just by searching for Sounds of Stadia. Right, so now we've got all the channel updates out of the way, gentlemen. I don't think we can delay any longer. So this week, I think we should start by jumping straight into Tom.
You want to go straight to the
I want to go
sexy
straight
special
into it.
Stadia.
I can't hang fire this week.
Story segment, aka
The news.
I'm just going to leave you boys to do that now.
You should. Everyone should do it. It's a joint effort.
Everyone, sing along at home.
Are we meant to be synchronizing it?
No.
We never discussed this.
We try and discuss it every week, and we get nowhere. So we'll just have the same discussion about discussing it every week.
Yeah, that's it. We just say, we've never actually discussed it, so we don't know what we're doing.
So fear not, I do have a state lined up for what's Stadia,
Okay.
but I felt like it was pertinent for us to jump straight into the kind of key burning topic Stadia is now live. So I think we'll start off with the topic of the show, actually, as well as blending it in with the news. First impressions, gentlemen. Whoever wants to take this hot seat.
You go, Tom.
Okay, yeah. So I picked mine up. Actually, I was really surprised to get mine on the 21st of November as opposed to the delivery date, which was on my order, which was the 27th. So first of all, props to Google for actually getting mine out sooner. Now, I don't know if I pulled any strings behind the scenes because actually, to be honest, I don't know anyone over there. But thank you very much, guys. Picked it up. Had to wait about 4 hours, I think, after the delivery to get my code. I know there was some sort of issues. I'm sure we're going to talk about that later in terms of the delivery of it and so on. But received mine and I've tested it out. Absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. No issues whatsoever. So I really don't sort of see like there's sort of been mixed opinions based on initial feedback. But my personal experience, it's incredible. It works really, really well.
I think a big part of what we've seen in all the early reviews from like traditional news sites and such, the reviews have been kind of lukewarm. They've been very much in the 5s and 6s ratio, and I think that's because the reality is it's launched with a lot of features stripped out of it initially that they are due to be rolled out over the next couple of weeks and months. But I think a big thing about Stadia is it's so heavily reliant on your own personal circumstances and what your own internet infrastructure is at home, where you plan on using it, what devices, whether it's going to be on the move or not. But yeah, I totally agree. Just to echo what you said there, Tom, my delivery, obviously, mine was due for the 19th. I think it came on the 20th, so the next day was shipped out, and I got my code pretty much, I think, 1 o'clock in the morning of the 20th. So I got my code before I got my controller, so I got it in the chronological order in which you would expect to get it, the code first, and then so I did have a chance to jump in and trial it out. But yeah, initial launch impressions, I hooked the Chromecast stick up, I downloaded the Google Home app, I did all the relevant updates, the controller. It was quite a seamless setup, jump through all the little hoops that they set up for you. But initially, it was no more difficult than plugging a console in and hardwiring it and going through all the pick your language, pick your date, your time, log in. It was very, very seamless.
It's just setting up Chromecast.
It was just following the steps next, and then it directs you to the Stadia app for your initial Stadia kind of naming conventions. Which, yeah, for those who've not seen yet, I managed to bag the Sounds of Stadia tag. So instead of going personal, I've totally committed to the brand and the podcast belief. So
committing to the cause right there.
Committing to the cause. You stole my username.
Stole your username. Well, one of us had to have it, and better us three than someone who we don't know, and holds us at ransom for it.
True that.
But yeah, so no initial problems. I jumped in. I've played a bit of Destiny. I've played a bit of Tomb Raider because I did want a story-based one that wasn't as kind of frame rate heavy. But so far, very happy. Very, very happy indeed. It was just that surprise moment. I sat back in the living room and thought, I'm playing this with just a controller and a Chromecast stick. It was that magic of there's nothing else in between other than me and the television. Very impressed. Very impressed. How about yourself,
I think
Richie?
the thing...
Oh, sorry. Go on.
Go ahead,
I was going to say, I think the thing that sort of wowed me with it a little bit is the fact that I did a little bit of a test of having a couple of laptops in front of me and having it running on the Chromecast. So I was just playing through Destiny, and I just thought, I want to see how quickly this actually can move from the TV to a laptop, for example. Loaded up stadia.google.com, literally just plugged the controller straight into the USB port, and it booted me up. I think it took me maybe 20, 30 seconds tops. But honestly, the transition was just absolutely sleek. And I could just immediately pick up from where I was going, like no issue whatsoever. So as far as I'm concerned, like straight out of the box, it's advertised exactly as they said it would be. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
Go on, Richie, fill us in. How was your...
kind of had two discrete experiences with Stadia. One of them matches exactly with what you two have just been saying, and that is I was using about 50 megabit per second internet, seamless, absolutely beautiful, can't fault it. However, I also tried it in 15 megabit per second internet, and Destiny 2 was basically unplayable.
Which is, we must point out, is the below the recommended speed Google do.
Kind of is. Google say it's 20 plus for 1080p HDR, 60 frames per second, 5.1 surround. However, they do say at 10 megabits per second, you get 720p and 60 frames per second in stereo. So expectation, it should be playable, but graphics a bit shitty. The problem I had was I would be okay if that was the case, but I was having a lot of frame rate issues, a lot of lag. So at the lower speeds, Stadia is it's not where it needs to be as advertised.
Especially for a shooter, which understandably, if you're going to have any... We've all played shooters where we've had some kind of glitch or lag or rubber banding, and it does just, it ruins the actual experience off the bat.
Yeah, there was a lot of in areas where there's lots of things on screen, a lot of heavy pixelation. It's so that was probably down at 240 and still lagging. So if you're above 20 megabits per second, you're fine. Below that, maybe consider what you're doing.
Yeah.
And the only other weird one I've had is this was in there. 50 megabits per second on my laptop. For some reason, it wasn't working. Every time I tried to launch a game, I got a weird reopen game to play bug. I honestly haven't no idea why.
I think I've seen some of that reported on Reddit as well, where people have just tried to launch the software and for certain. I don't know what the actual trigger is for it, but some people have just been unable to load the game whatsoever. It's just said relaunch the game and so on.
Yeah.
So. Initial bugs?
Yeah, I don't get it because I've had had that bug on my laptop right next to my desktop. Desktop was fine. Laptop can't play.
Have you tested it since, just out of curiosity?
I have, yeah.
Okay.
I've tested it a couple of times over the last few days, and having the same bug. I haven't plugged my laptop in via Ethernet cable yet, which I will try before next week. And if that doesn't work, I'm going to contact Google support and see if they get anything out of them.
Gonna get in that queue, are you?
Yeah.
That queue that I've seen a lot of fiery comments about this week.
I'm not being fiery about it.
No, I don't mean you. I mean people who specifically are angry with the queue on launch day being a long hold time when, surely before you even dial that number, you're expecting.
I was just going to email them
a bit away. Yeah, I wouldn't put myself on hold. It was a lot of people I think were desperate for their codes, who I think there was some mix up this week with the codes were shipping after the day, and Google did take to Twitter to clarify that they've had some issues with the rollouts, and I think a lot of the rightly so frustration has came from people who were receiving their controllers and their packs and had yet to receive their code, which I think leading up to it we were all promised you would get your code on the day of launch irregardless of if you've received your delivery or not. So you could jump in with a third-party control, and I think that definitely upset people on Tuesday from what I saw.
Well, to be fair, I've seen people on over the weekend complaining on the Facebook saying, "Where's all the rest of the games? I've only got 2 games." Still thinking it's a Netflix for game service. So
was read. I wouldn't use it's not even the fine print. I would just read. read the
I think that's what
you bought.
The problem is with communities like this is that I know we see a lot of negativity out there, but we are starting to see some of the positives try to come through.
Definitely.
Especially in light of looking at some of the reviews from big big news stations and so on. If you look at IGN, I believe, if you look at Engadget, Kotaku, and so on, as you said before, Chris, because of some of the features and things being missing, some of the pros have just been saying stuff like it's not quite right. But I think a lot of what we're seeing from the actual consumers, the people who are using it, are saying, actually, do you know what? Credit given where it's due. This service is working a hell of a lot better than I thought. That's my experience was a little bit tainted based on what I'd been reading online. I was a little bit worried about it pre-launch, but after getting into it, wow, seriously, wow.
The base service is it works.
Yeah.
Apart from low internet speeds.
Yeah, it really does, and I think
I'm not surprised by that.
Yeah, no. And I think to Kickstarter, from what the reviews have said, all the particular ones I read, like you said, Tom, IGN, Kotaku, and such, they all praised it for how well it works on decent internet speed, and they said that the fact it works from these servers without it, a lot of them praised it and said it was actually better than the xCloud trials.
Yes.
Because of, I think, because the controllers with them are obviously Bluetooth rather than being Wi-Fi, so you do lose that latency dip. But yeah, other than that, a lot of the reviews have basically said it's a bit light on the features, which I think leading into it, I think we came to the realization, all of us, that it's very much a beta. And over the next couple of weeks and months, we're going to slowly but surely be the test bed for all these new features like party chat and the buddy system when that rolls out. And it's a very easy way of them testing the servers, not putting too much pressure on it. And I think come base, I think we'll have a completely rounded product. And I think a lot of these reviewers will have to go back and kind of rethink the score.
So while we're on that point, actually, as well, so you mentioned about party chat and so on. Now, Chris, you and I had a moment to check this out. One of the things that that I noticed when we were playing together, we tried jumping into Destiny 2. The quality of audio at the moment in voice chat isn't incredible. It's still playable, it's still passable, but compared to the voice chats on Xbox and on PlayStation, it's not quite to those standards. So I am hoping that they roll out a higher quality voice chat.
It was definitely the quality, not just the volume.
It was the quality.
After you mentioned this on our WhatsApp group, I had a look, and by default, I think the chat audio on Stadia set to 6, where everything else is up to 10. So if it was just volume, it might just be a case of that needs to be dialed up. But if it's quality, that's a different issue entirely.
Yeah, I think it was just a bit choppy and it was breaking up a few times. But I think a lot of people came to the realization this week that none of them have a really good quality wired headset to plug into their controller. A lot of us have these amazing Bluetooth ones for gaming rig setups. But yeah, personally, I think I just had some Apple earphones in.
I kind of like a wired one, to be honest, because I bought my wired headset for mainly playing on PlayStation, and I plug it into my controller. So that being wireless is just not necessary.
Yeah, but I think a lot of people got a bit of a shock where they were like, they went into chat with their friends, and I think got caught out a bit by not having the full equipment that they needed. But it would have been nice if it came as part of the pack, but it's all obviously additional costs.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there's a couple of them on people's Christmas lists after this week.
I think the thing to remember as well, it's a streaming service, and the more things you got going through your Wi-Fi, the more bandwidth it's going to take.
That's
Very
where I
true.
was going to go with this point as well. I was thinking maybe they have to sort of like consider things like if we're talking about streaming, high fidelity video and so on, then do we have to actually consider what sort of rate we're actually transmitting audio at? Because it's all gonna eat from your connection anyway. So
It's all coming down the
probably
same
got,
line.
yeah,
Yeah.
they've probably got a very basic client going, and then they'll probably upgrade as things go.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I don't expect to see anything other than rolling out features, as you say, because we are in this sort of testing phase, and everybody has to admit, as we've said before, time and time again, week after week, we are in a testing phase, whether people like that or not. We are testing this product,
And this is the worst it'll ever be.
Yeah,
I hope so.
Yeah,
we hope.
and
It can
it's
go
difficult to go
backwards.
down from this.
It is very
That's
much.
not a criticism of Stadia. It's like there's only upwards to go.
In general, tech gets better as time goes by. That's certainly true. But I think off the back of what you said there, Tom, about kind of mixed reactions and stuff, I jumped onto Twitter on some of these Stadia posts just to get a general consensus for some of the people out there. And I thought, we'll get some positive feedback going, because I think leading up to launch, it's very easy for people to jump into community forums and Twitter threads and just kind of throw fake stories and fake impressions, and people were saying they'd got the product before launch, and we've laughed and joked so much over the last couple of weeks about
It actually descended into satire at some point.
it really did. So I thought I'll pick out some here. So from Twitter we've got someone called Kevin Core. His first impression was played for the first time today, played perfect, no lag, very happy. Second one, we've got Greg Monstein, been having a blast with Red Dead Redemption 2, 0 issues, and got me excited to see how the future goes. Millie Z, loving it, just got Assassin's Creed and Tomb Raider. British Blendor, which I approve of the name. I, for one, have been really impressed and excited to see what the future brings. So, again, don't get me wrong, there were some bad ones in there, which I'm not going to bring up because I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. However, there was very, very mixed messages. I think a lot of it comes down to personal experience, and I think a lot of people who were founders and early adopters, they're tech enthusiasts, so they probably have decent setups at home in terms of Wi-Fi infrastructure or Ethernet connection or a TV, and they kind of understand what to expect. Whereas I think, as you kind of alluded to there, Richie, people who didn't even read the basic setup of Stadia, they're the ones who suddenly get up in arms about how disappointing it works or what features are missing, because they don't know what they've got themselves in for. They probably just have a bit too much cash to throw around.
And I think you're always going to read more negativity online anyway, because people tend to focus on the negatives as opposed to actually appreciating the positives. So it is going to stick out like a sore thumb.
It's not
It's
just
the
that. It's
vocal
not just how
minority.
people focus on it. I think people are more likely to actually express a negative opinion than the positive one online.
Yeah.
I think that's just part of human nature, unfortunately.
Yeah, we all like to bitch and moan.
Yeah, because you kind of want to let people know your negative experience with things, to stop people having the same experience. So a lot of that, I think, in a weird way, this negativity sometimes I think stems from a positive place.
It really does, and I think
And also some people are just dicks.
yeah, that is very true. Some people just like stare in the pot, and I think with social media, it's very easy to get carried away. But from what I've seen, there was a ton of positive praise, and I think the reality is, as you said, Richie, it can only get better. Our 3 impressions seem all highly positive. I was just blown away by the fact that it was playing on my TV with no big box, sat in a living room, and the reality of growing up with gaming and having my entire life so far is that you've always got to rely on that box not overheating, not breaking down, the disc not being scratched, and to come to a point where I'm sat there with a controller, I can just jump seamlessly from device to device.
It's interesting you mention overheating.
Actually, yeah, it is. Yeah. It's one of the very good
We've got a good segue.
One of the news stories from this week is some of the Chromecast Ultras apparently been overheating after around about 4 hours of gameplay. Again, depending, I suppose, on individual circumstances and individual products. This stuff happens with phones, Samsung, and batteries overheating and stuff. It's a known thing when it comes to running electric current through things. They get a bit hot. And obviously, I don't think the Chromecast stick has any kind of cooling in.
No, it doesn't.
But
it's just a stick, isn't it?
Yeah. I think it's quite possible, especially if you're like on a wall-mounted television. This is behind a television against the wall, so there's no air circulation, so there's no way for natural cooling to occur. But to be honest, it's not something I can test out because it only seemed to happen with people playing with 4K Ultra HD setups, and I just quite simply don't have a screen suitable.
And again, I think it is going to be isolated because I can't fathom a thought to think that Google have not tested this to its utmost extremes.
Yeah.
In 4 hours seems like a very low test.
I think these are isolated incidents. I don't think it's affecting the masses. But again, it's gonna be one of these things that as soon as someone can jump on the bandwagon, oh look, it's overheating. It's a rubbish product, and so
then
on.
Suddenly everyone's touching it. Oh, it's a bit warm. It's overheating.
Oh
It's
no, can't.
Yeah. Then you'll see the memes where people are like, "Oh, I've burnt my hand. I've had third-degree burns from it and such," like people do when their mobile phones get a bit hot. And it's like, well, remove it from your face. Take it away from your hand if it's that hot.
What do you mean I shouldn't put my Chromecast on my radiator?
Yeah. Oh, you can imagine some people's setups. I mean, don't get me wrong. Behind my television is an absolute spider web of wires.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can imagine some wall-mounted setups and not circulated very, very well. But like you said, Tom, isolated incident. I've not seen too much of it. It's not been picked up in any big news story, so it's clearly a small issue. Yeah. If it's even true, because again, anyone could say.
If you're worried about it, just try and set up your Chromecast so it's got a bit more natural air circulation.
If you're really worried about it, take a jar of water, place it behind your TV.
Do not do that. Do not do
that. maybe use some ice cubes.
Take a fork into the plug socket.
Yeah.
Microwave it for 2 minutes on high.
And you'll be cooked, well and truly cooked.
So, speaking of isolated incidents, did you chaps see what happened to Destiny this past week as well, following the launch of Stadia?
Yes. Sudden influx of the Stadia masses have broke it.
It was quite annoying. I got home. I'm not well at the moment, so I just wanted to go, okay, I've got Stadia. I've got my setup there. All I want to do is jump into Destiny. No,
Richie, sorry, you're not allowed to play Destiny anymore.
But again, you weren't alone. This wasn't a Stadia-specific incident. We should point out it was Destiny servers across the board. So,
and I tested this because I tried jumping on PlayStation, couldn't either. So,
but Bungie, credit to them. They jumped in very quickly and let everyone know that look, the servers are down. We are trying to fix it. Sorry for this, guys, but as ASAP.
I don't think they had a clue what went wrong.
No, I think they probably just turned it off and back on a couple of times. Poured some water on it. Hopefully that'll resolve the issue. Yeah. But yeah, I think it was. I saw immediately what was quite nice to see was the Stadia Twitter feed and other sites quickly retweeted Bungie's response to it. That they were aware of it. But you can imagine in the wider picture of Stadia launch, it looked like initially it was just Stadia. What I saw anyway in our little kind of community groups, but then it was nice to see that it wasn't just Stadia. Although I'd be surprised if that wasn't the reason. Suddenly adding an entire new infrastructure onto your pre-existing one could only have put more strain on what goes on behind the scenes, I suppose.
I'm not sure about that because the way Stadia rolled out the codes, there would have been people jumping in dribs and drabs rather than suddenly he's a million people trying to access it at once. But it could be.
Something happened. But in terms of other news, so we had Destiny go down briefly, back up and running. What were your initial takes on Destiny then? From I presume you did manage to get onto it eventually, Richie.
Yeah, I played quite a lot yesterday, and I have no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same. So I played. For those who haven't listened to previous episodes, I've played a fair bit of Destiny 1 with some friends. I didn't start jumping into number 2 initially when it first launched last year, but it was nice to get it for free, and I thought I'll jump in with all the complete collection pack. And from first impressions, I think you echoed this sentiment as well, Tom, that it was very loosely kind of doesn't hold your hand or anything getting into the initial startup. I don't know how you felt about it, Richie, but I felt like completely lost and overwhelmed with how much there was to do.
Yeah, it kind of expects you to know what you're doing, and I think the game it's very mechanics driven rather than narrative driven, so there's no narrative to help you learn the mechanics. It's kind of get into the world, figure it out.
It makes a lot of assumptions, and I think one of the things that I noticed that we discussed, Chris, was that intro, that sort of like mini tutorial, is literally identical to Destiny 1. Now, I didn't touch Destiny 2 at all, so to jump into that, and I thought, have I got the right game? I'm actually playing the right game here.
Yeah, that part where you wake up on Earth and there's all the rusty cars around
Yeah.
you, and you get the quick ghost
But
pops up. Who's I
it's
think
not Peter
Nolan North
Dinklage
now.
anymore.
It's
Used to be
Nolan
Peter
North, I
Dinklage.
believe.
But
Yeah, the Dink got kicked out because he wasn't committed to the role.
all
But
good for
yeah, it's
Nolan.
Nolan North, of course, picks up any kind of voice acting job on the go. Absolute legend that he is. And yeah, you kind of tutorial through how to shoot, how to jump, the different mechanics. Work flawlessly, by the way, on Stadia. That's what I was impressed with the most, was the fact that I was playing this game and the graphic quality looked great, 4K HDR on my big screen TV. There was no real lag. I did the usual test out the latency and the button clicks and everything. Absolutely seamless. But yeah, I agree with Tom. Once I'd kind of got through that part into the open big boss fight that you team up with another few people who are also in the tutorial, whether they're NPCs or actual real people, I didn't really kind of fathom that out. But I was getting very deja vu feels from the original Destiny. And then you end up at the Traveler in the big kind of world hub, and it's kind of like, right, there you go, enjoy the game. And my word, you get hammered with icons and loot and gear and light and options and people to talk to and messages and quests. And yeah, very quickly after accepting a few, I was kind of at a loss for which direction to bloody head in.
Well, the one thing for me is I think it could do definitely a longer tutorial to ease you into these mechanics, but it doesn't separate the base content from the DLC very well. So as a new player, don't have a clue what I'm doing. It's like, Is this high-end content? Is this beginner content? I don't know.
It's almost like a lot of assumptions were made to basically say like, oh, right. Oh, you have played Destiny 2 before then, right? Like this game has been out for a while. So surely you've played it. You've experienced it.
Yeah, I wonder if they've removed some of that content to make it easier for new players to jump straight into the end game stuff. But I don't like that. I want to experience the game.
Absolutely. I think a lot of us who are coming over to Stadia as well now are sort of like trying to pick up a big title for us to actually get into on a multiplayer level and start rolling out cooperatively. Like, okay, yeah, let's run through all of the content together. But where the hell do you start? Like, where the hell do you begin?
Yeah, I mean, I've only had a very passing interest in Destiny, which is why I've never really played it before. And I thought, well, it's there as with Stadia. This is the time for me to give it a go.
Yeah,
and
that's
it's fun, but I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, I really feel like it should have held your hand a little bit more heading into like maybe the story, because again, I know nothing about that world now. Like I'm in the hub. I went to the Dead Zone or whatever it was called, which I think is back on Earth. I went and met up with a guy in a clock tower. Then loads of people started dropping out of the sky, alien things, killed them. I have no idea who they are. I know I'm a guardian of some sort again, this is what I've pulled from the first game.
I don't even know what a guardian is.
Again, yeah, I feel like that you're a guardian, Richie. You're a guardian of the galaxy. Not copyright or anything. But in terms of that, yeah, I feel like it should have had a few more story beats, kind of painting the picture of what's happening in the universe, who you are, maybe a bit more, the threats that are imminent, and kind of what your role in this world is. Whereas, yeah, they just drop you in that hub and expect you to go freely talk to people, which I get it's got its RPG mechanics as well, and they want you to explore. Because the first thing I did is I went to the message board, and I got a free gift from someone for being a purchaser of the game, I presume. And then I wandered and talked to some bloke looking out over a balcony at the sunrise, and he told me he worked for a certain clan, and I need to go meet him, and he gave me like 3 quests, which was all going to give me some kind of loot. So I accepted all them 3. But then I didn't know where to go to achieve it. It was just I need 50 of something, 100 of another. And yeah, I'm kind of just left thinking, like, look at all these little blue icons and stuff, thinking, where do I go next? Because I just want to play the game, but I need something to show me what stepping stones I need to do to get into it.
It's little things like I've had bounties that say, kill 50 enemies using arc damage. And it's like, I don't even know what that is.
Mm-hmm.
I've noticed my guns have different icons, but I don't know which one's arc.
Yeah. This is why I've said I'm going to definitely give my buddy pass to our friend Gary, who's logged far too many hours I'd like to comprehend into Destiny 1 and 2. It's a mainstay.
Million hours.
Yeah, far too many. More hours than our podcast has existed, I guarantee you that for now. But he's an absolute expert at it, so I'm hoping he's going to jump in and give us kind of a hand-holded tour guide of all things Destiny. But so again, it's a free game. I'm more than going to give it its time. I'm going to jump into it. I think as a 3, we're going to all create our little fire team. maybe as a private little clan for any Patreon subscribers out there. We will invite you along if you jump on board with us.
Let's be real though. I mean, I'm assuming, Chris, you've probably tested your connection, and you, Richie, as well, when you've been playing the games as well.
Yeah.
Because that game looks incredible. Like,
Yes.
Visually, it looks amazing. And I have to say, like, I can see why they've gone for something like Destiny 2, because it has stood up. Like, it has stood up. It is beautiful when you're in the tower and looking out over the horizon.
With it being an MMO, it's showing other aspects of Stadia that we've discussed in the past.
Yeah.
There's other people there, and it holds up. And with a reasonable internet speed, no latency, none of that, no lag, perfect.
Yeah.
Magic.
Yeah. It is magic.
Witchcraft, some would say.
Yeah.
Good job, Google, and good job, Bungie.
Yeah, keep it up, keep it going. And I think, again, this can only bode well for future games that we're hopefully getting by the end of the year. So obviously, we know the likes of Borderlands 3 doesn't necessarily require the most graphic fidelity because it's got that cel-shaded cartoon aesthetic to it. But it holds true. I'm really intrigued. I was actually on the fence of buying Assassin's Creed Odyssey again, and I stopped myself because I've got Christmas presents to buy. But I know that game is absolutely gorgeous, like that ancient Greek world Ubisoft have made there. And I've logged well over 130 hours in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, so I can attest to its quality. And yeah, I was so on the fence with jumping in and buying it, but I thought, no, I'll hang fire until there's a fresh and newer game to play.
So you went for the cheapest game in the store?
I did. I jumped.
Me too.
Went in and got Tomb Raider, which was clocking in at a very satisfactory £8, which is expected. I'm glad it's not. I'm glad they're trying to not pull the wool over our eyes with a £30 day one purchase or anything like that. I appreciate that it was just £8 and not £7.99. We very rarely see prices rounded up, so £8 on the nose, lovely. But yeah, I mean, Richie, you've never played the Tomb Raider games before, correct?
I've played the first one, and I did buy it again because it's a good game. I enjoyed it, and when Destiny was down, I was like, well, I want to try this out. And Samurai Showdown, it's a fighting game, doesn't interest me.
No.
So what do I want? It's like, well, as you said, Christmas is coming. I've just forked out a lot of money for Google Stadia. It's getting towards the end of the month as well, so big cash light. You know what I'll do? I'll jump into Tomb Raider again. It's good fun.
Have you been enjoying it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thoroughly have actually. I think the last time I must have played it was on the PS4 re-release, which will have been probably early 2014, I think, when it got its reboot. So it's been a good minute since I've actually jumped in and played Tomb Raider, and I'm a massive fan of that third-person or Uncharted style kind of climbing mechanics, shooting, upgrade your inventory and such. And I've sunk a good, 3-4 hours into it now. It runs flawlessly. Obviously, graphic fidelity is nowhere near the quality of Destiny, but that's not down to Stadia. That's purely down to old games old. And
that's nothing.
It's not as. But you know what? Again, the fact that I could just jump seamlessly from my TV to my laptop upstairs and run it runs perfectly. And I was very impressed. And I've been enjoying the story so far. They're good games for anyone who's not jumped into them. But yeah, I wanted to start at the beginning. Because I wasn't
that's what I was thinking. Especially when the achievements launch, I'd like to have Tomb Raider 1, 2, and 3 effectively the equivalent of the Platinum Trophy.
Yeah.
See, I'll race you.
I've got a couple of questions about the store.
I know where everything is.
I've
done it twice on PS3 and PS4 already.
So about the store at the moment, guys. You mentioned about Tomb Raider being £8. Can anybody explain to me why Final Fantasy 15 is £26 and 24 pence?
You're paying for the Roman numerals, I think.
Yes, I can. It will be based. I think Google using an algorithm which will look at probably a couple of different stores, like probably Xbox's store, PlayStation store, probably things like Amazon. Get and kind of work and aggregate out.
That's what I expected.
So what I've noticed is if you look at a lot of the prices of the games, not ignore the pro discounts. Just the base prices, they are usually cheaper than the Xbox and PlayStation store, but a little bit more expensive than, say, Amazon.
Yes, that's the feeling I'm currently getting at the moment. Now
that's a sweet spot. That's where you want to be. Cheaper than buying it physically and cheaper than your competition. So
now I know it's a bit. I mean, considering things like Christmas and the holidays and so on at the moment, I'd like to see a few more of those games around the £8 marker. Because it'd be nice to pick up a few titles like that just to play around on in between.
I definitely want like an a la carte games option. I think at the moment what's been difficult is that it's you've had Destiny, as we mentioned there, Samurai Showdown. I'm sure if you're into that type of game, amazing. I fell out fighting games many moons ago because I'm just not good at them. I can't keep up with the combinations and such. But yeah, I jumped into the store, as I'm sure we all did, on our mobile phones, because you can only buy them through the mobile phones yet. We should also point that out that you cannot purchase Stadia games through the Stadia setup on your TV. It has to be through the mobile app, which in the 21st century world we live in now, it's not a problem. It doesn't bother me in the slightest. As soon as you click purchase, by the way, they are there on your home screen.
Yeah.
Good to go on the game shop. It's instantaneous. But yeah, I'm sure you all did the same thing. Get a flick through, thought how much is in your bank balance, thought is there anything you want to jump into? And yeah, I went for naturally the cheapest Tomb Raider, which by the looks of the internet, everybody else did as well. I've seen so much love for the first Tomb Raider game, several years detached.
It's a great game.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
Like, it helps build up your library quickly.
I'm trying to get my head around. Go on, sorry, Richie.
The interesting thing to notice about the store with the pro discounts is I'm looking at the Assassin's Creed Odyssey one right now, and underneath the buy button says offer ends the 3rd of December 2019. So these might cycle through different games.
Right. Okay.
So we might see discounts or other games coming.
Yeah. Now, I know you guys really love this game, so I do have to ask ahead of time. How do you play How do you play Just Dance 2020 on that?
I can't say I've played a Just Dance game before, if I'm honest.
With style.
Absolutely. Style and finesse takes you forward. No, I've been trying to get my head around it because I'm sure Just Dance works on motion controls or like camera responses and so on.
That was my impression.
But
maybe it's just like the dance mat when you didn't have a player 2 dance mat, so you just use the controller and it's just like X, circle, up, down, up, down.
You know what?
Not even stick, not even analog stick.
The video killed the radio star.
Any listeners out there, buy Just Dance, tell us how it plays, tweet at us at Sounds of Stadia. We need to know.
I need to know before I commit to purchasing it, because if I have to go out and buy extra hardware, I need to know. So please do let me.
Yeah. You need to buy a full arcade dance setup.
It's all about. It's for Tom's get fit for his wedding.
It's my get fit regime.
Yeah.
Gonna get them moves on.
But yeah, I mean, looking at the store, I think we're glad. Imagine how short this store list would be, by the way, if they hadn't more than doubled the games just before launch.
Yeah, I saw that, but I think if you look into it, Google were basically releasing the games as they got certified. That was the plan. So I think when they announced their game lineup, there were the 10 that were certified, and the others came very quickly. I think they didn't want to go, you'll get these day one, because if there was any delays in the certification.
Yeah, I've not seen anyone playing Farming Simulator.
Got to admit, neither have I. No, I had a discussion with Holly about it, and she said, you're probably best putting your money elsewhere.
Into a real farm setup. I've seen quite a lot of people playing Guild.
Yes.
The little indie title with the young girl, like a creepy haunted story about. I think it's very similar to Concrete Genie. Actually, I'm getting very big vibes from that about like bullying and childhood nightmares and that kind of like creepy world that she's in. And it is a Stadia exclusive, correct?
It is.
So yeah, if you want to play Guild, that looks like the kind of go-to one. Currently priced at £30. Sorry. Yeah. So not quite the Tomb Raider £8 jumping on point.
No, not quite.
But again, there's going to be more rolled out supposedly by the week.
That's what I was just
as
about
we
to
mentioned a few weeks ago. Google put a 2019 date on this stuff, and with 5 weeks till the end of the year, 6 weeks till the end of the year almost.
I imagine it'll come thick and fast.
I hope so, because I'm really keen. Like compare day, something that I think we can all jump onto. If Destiny doesn't quite get hooked to us by then, I'm definitely intrigued by the likes of Borderlands or Ghost Recon.
I'm really glad you said that, because I was
something
thinking
we can all play.
Even though I have Borderlands 3 already, I'm really looking to push a game from a console of the current gen onto Stadia now. Like I've been thinking about this over and over and over again. Now we'll talk about it later, but at the moment I'm playing Jedi Fallen Order, and if that had come out here, I would have been on this. I would have been on Stadia with it for literally non-stop.
Yeah, same, exactly the same. Because it's a fantastic game, and
I just think
just got it for launch.
But I think the hardware as well would really back up the feeling of it. Now we'll talk about the game again later, but yeah, I think EA might be missing a trick with Stadia on this.
Yeah, I totally agree. and sports tiles and other such ones that we
Yeah.
discussed.
They'll come.
But yeah, they'll come. They'll come. While we're still in the news segment, then we've got Fest Impressions. We've got that really good. One I wanted to quickly jump into is the best and worst Stadia founders' names you've seen so far. So have you guys had any standout ones that you've picked up on?
Yep, I got one. So I'm browsing Reddit quite a bit at the moment, and also just keeping my eyes open in Destiny. And the one which really stood out to me, which I thought was quite funny, was this is thanks to JLPTP2 on Reddit, by the way. But he threw out a post to the Reddit community on the subreddit Stadia community, asking for people to upvote a name suggestion for him to use. Now, in case you don't know, we have a 15 character limit on our usernames for founders. So you can only use up to 15 characters, and that is it. So somebody came up with the idea of trying to push that in a very ironic way. His username is 15, numerics, 15, character limit. No T.
Because he's not got enough.
I actually thought that was quite hilarious.
I appreciate the commitment to the bad joke, for your founder's name.
Yeah, definitely. I've seen a good mixture. I've seen a lot of people evidently not understand the ability to book your name early and get on there. I've seen so many people with different number additions.
Crazy Dave 556.
Using all numerics instead of letters, and it's like you do realize you could have just used the word because chances are it was free. Like I've seen some people that have just got like three letter words, and some people I forget whether obviously that might just be their handle across all platforms and they want to keep it the same.
Yeah, I was gonna say mine's got numbers in there, but that's to sync up with other platforms.
Did you try Richard or not?
I did. I tried Richie. I tried Richard. Though it was taken by the time I got mine.
I suppose someone got that bit.
So I defaulted my Twitter handle.
Yeah, I did see a few. I like the one unstable table.
Yeah.
Okay.
That guy needs some beer mats.
It's random. Daddy Dumpling is quite a disturbing one.
That I did see. A terrible sex act.
Yeah, it really does. That's terrible, Richie.
I've seen Jeff. I've seen a Jeff.
Just a guy
Jeff
called Jeff.
Its own. Just Jake double F. Yeah, Jeff.
That's what I was kind of hoping for. Just if I could just be Richie on Stadia, that'd be great.
Yeah, I know.
I suppose you need a bit more of an obscure name.
Yeah. So if whoever's Richie on Stadia is listening to this, I want my name. You better damn well be playing.
He wants his name back. What's quite good is on the app you can jump in and just pick out names anywhere. Mr. Tuna.
I've seen a good collection of people using the names of Marvel superheroes. I've seen a collection of Pokemon names as well. I've seen a Magikarp and a Gyarados, for example.
Yeah, I did see
like that.
One group of people, which I presume they're a friend group. They were all named after Muppets.
Oh, that's awesome.
So you had Kermit, Miss Piggy, and a bunch of other ones, Beaker and such in there. I did think, and again,
what if
we
the actual Muppets.
Yeah, but one of the ones I was talking to a friend, I thought, I wonder how good it'd be if you could have like the Fellowship of the Ring, or like you said, MCU characters. You could have those characters, and imagine being in a clan on a future game, whether that would be a Lord of the Rings property or not, or an MCU property, and you were in that group as...
And you're Gimli.
Yeah, and you were in that group as Gimli, Legolas, Aragorn and stuff, and Gandalf. How amazing that would be to kind of see all your names as the characters.
Everyone would probably think you're actual, like, legit people.
Yeah, you think you're an NCP. They were like, oh, why is Gandalf doing this weird circular dance and squatting on people's heads? And it's like, he's broke, it's the coding. We might keep this as an ongoing segment, I think, because there's going to be some terrible names. Once the founders kind of break ranks and the common folk get involved, you're going to get some really, really bad ones coming through. But it's good to see...
Yeah, I wonder how many people have contacted Google support already after the initial joke.
Yeah, I made a joke, I've got the screen grabs, and now I regret my decision. It's let me change.
While we're on it then, a couple of shout-outs for a few people I've seen this week. And I think, as you say, this might be quite funny to do every week based on who we've seen publicly. So quick shout-out to Jaffa Cake King. Appreciate that one. Shout-out to username just good enough. I guess it's acceptable. It's good enough. So
This'll do.
We'll take that one. I've also got Unstable Table. I've just seen him. He's on my list. I also have a Dixie Normus.
Oh, that's gonna get banned. For long.
Just
But
a few
actually,
I've seen this week.
speaking of names getting banned, actually, I did add it to the doc list as well. Through the app, there's actually a community option where you can jump in and you can ask questions and post. It's basically like Reddit, but kept internally with Google, and it's ran through the app. It's on the Explore tab. So naturally, I thought I'll jump in there. I'll create us a name for Sounds of Stadia for any future questions we may have. I give them some feedback under the Sounds of Stadia name on how I thought the app ran and everything. I thought, oh, well, yeah, we'll keep it ticking over. And I got an email this week shortly after. I thought, oh, they've received my feedback. No, it turns out that our Sounds of Stadia name is banned from the community.
Okay.
So we're not actually allowed to take part, apparently. I'll just quickly see if I can get the email up.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's weird.
I presume, like, again, I'm not going to be too negative about it, but there you go. So you've received a private message from the Stadia community. I thought, oh, someone's replied to me. They've seen my post. They're going to give me some feedback or something. Hello, and thank you for taking part in the Stadia community forum. Unfortunately, it looks like your username contains a banned term. As such, we are deactivating your account by 4 o'clock today, November 21st. You'll be able to re-register shortly after with a new username. We apologise if you have existing content on the forum, but thank you for understanding. And to make matters worse, it was Chris from the Google team. It was my namesake kicking me off. So apparently, I'm gonna guess that it's the fact that we've got Stadia in the title, and they don't want anything to do with Stadia representing.
Yeah, it might be for the confusion.
Yeah, I understand that Twitter in a public forum, YouTube public forum, that they're very limited to how much they want to impact us. Either that or our entire business model is going to go down the pan in the next couple of days. But in their own private community, I understand it.
I wonder how difficult it'll be eventually to get that blue check mark with us having Stadia in the title, because Twitter might be reluctant to actually go, yeah, we're a legit thing because we're using someone else's branding.
But again, Twitter, thankfully, is owned by Google.
They can make their own decisions.
Yeah. That's a conversation for it. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
Yeah.
Or we'll destroy the bridge and we will rebuild.
Yeah.
I'll give up and just go play Stadia. We'll see. So quickly, I think before we kind of wrap up the show for the week, because we've obviously had lots of exciting game stuff to talk about, I will segue into our What Stadia segment, because I'd hate to think we miss out on.
I was wondering.
Yeah, I could feel it in your voice as you were yearning to find out.
I was nervous. This is what the fans come here for.
It is.
It is. It really is. It's. So if we do need to rebrand the podcast, we'll do it to something.
Patreon tiers.
We'll just do it to something with learning about states. So I've specifically picked this week's state to tie in with a specific celebration that's going to kick off in America as well. So Thanksgiving, is next week. So the week people will be listening to this podcast. So gobble gobble, gentlemen, as we head over to the state in which the Mayflower arrived at Plymouth Rock, all the way back from merry old England back in 1620. Do you know what state it landed in?
I don't know my American history. I don't know it.
Hazard a guess?
Is it? I'm gonna guess it's in the New England region, so that's sort of like north
east can tell
area.
I think it might be New England.
It's Massachusetts.
Massachusetts. So we're going over to Boston.
Yep. So after setting sail from Southampton, it arrived in Plymouth Rock. So now, aside from capitaines, which apparently the pilgrims' hats, which I just like the word capitaine. It's quite cool. And the turkeys. Here's some quick fun facts about the state of Massachusetts. Both basketball and volleyball were invented there. So a very sporty state. Lots of games have came from that, definitely, both physical and actual games we play. More up my wheelhouse is the first Dunkin' Donuts was opened.
Oh yes,
in 1950, where coffee was just 10 cents, and the donuts were even cheaper.
Wow,
I'd be fat as
Take me back to the good days. Yeah.
Love a bit of Dunkin'. And the original is actually still open, by the way, in somewhere called Quincy.
Okay,
Quincy. And the final fact that I've got for you now, which I'm going to drop onto the doc because I really want one of you guys to pronounce it for me if you can. So it's called Webster Lake by the locals, but it does have a Native American name, and it is the longest geographical named lake in not only the US but the actual world. So if you guys will take yourself over to the What Stadia section of the doc.
Oh, what is
I would
that?
like Tom and Richie, I'd like you to both have a crack at saying that name. So Tom, you can go first. Lake.
I'm getting to it. Lake Chogoga Gogman Chogoga Gog Choban Gunga Magu.
And
I am so sorry.
and Richie.
Cha gog gog man chu gog chu bab no.
Exactly. It sounds
even
like
get
some
through the
kind
end.
of. It sounds like some kind of
I'm
demon
really
summoning.
sorry to the
It sounds like
Native
a summoning
Americans out
ritual.
there.
But yes, so it's the longest name in the world. It almost reminds me of some of the Welsh towns we have over in the UK as well, where they're ridiculously elongated in terms of the letters, but they don't fit on a sign very well, to say the least. But yeah, if you search for Lake Webster, everyone, I implore you to try and have an attempt at saying this name. It's Lake blah 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 blah, also known as Webster Lake by the locals. I wonder why they go with that. And funnily enough, the humorous translation of what that name actually means is "You fish on your side, I'll fish on mine, and no one shall fish in the middle," which is just fantastic. So I
That's
approve of that
incredible.
long name if that's what it translates.
That's
to.
amazing.
Very direct naming.
Very well direct. I wouldn't say too direct. It takes about 10 minutes to say the name. But
Descriptive.
it is very. But as you mentioned there, Tom, Boston. We'll go to Boston and we'll take our games over there. So we've got a small list of games for Boston. We actually have a Boston not too far up the road from us, don't we, Richie?
It's true.
Probably the original. But yes, games. Let's think. Games in Boston or Massachusetts.
Boston. Richie,
I have a list
I'll give
of
you,
4.
I'll
Richie
give
backs
you the
up
starting
first.
point today.
You know I'm
Stepping
terrible
up
at
to the
this.
hoop. Take your shot
You love it.
off the backboard. Insert more basketball references.
Yeah, because that's helping. I we're going to skip sports games because for any
Yes.
state you could
could,
use a sports game.
There's 4 in particular, 2 we've mentioned in previous podcasts.
I'm going to go Half-Life as
I
a random guess.
You're wrong. Tom, over to you.
Fallout 4.
Fallout 4, correct.
Yeah.
Fallout 4 was set there. I
That's
think is that where you come out of the? You're coming out of the vault. You're already there. The whole thing's set there, isn't it?
You're right.
Mhm.
Literally one of the first towns you get to is Boston.
Oh, well, there you go then. Another one we had in previous weeks, Assassin's Creed 3. We mentioned took place in New York.
Yeah,
Yes.
but that
And
game was
also
boring.
Boston. The Mayflower was actually, whilst doing my research, I also learned that the Mayflower was actually supposed to arrive in the area that became New York, and they ended up a lot more north, hence why they landed in Massachusetts.
Terrible GPS in them days.
For those of you, back in the day, for those of you who've played The Last of Us, the kind of second part does take you to Boston as well. Richie,
now I hate my life.
roll there.
Okay.
That's the kind of, I think it's the city part, isn't it? Build up when it starts to get a bit cold. And then finally, one game I've not played, but I did have really big intrigue for was Remedy's Quantum Break on Xbox.
Quantum Break. That was the one that had the TV show around it as well, wasn't it?
Did, yeah, that Iceman from X-Men.
And Littlefinger.
Yes, it was, yeah. Peter Baelish himself.
Peter Baelish.
Who always whispers. But yeah, so that's Lake Charaga, however you say that, and that is the end of the What Stadia segment for this week, which brings us to 52 minutes on the clock, gents.
Right.
So I think we've run through most of the topics for today. We're really happy with Stadia. Obviously, a few glitches here and there, but what else are you going to expect? A nice one that we took away, a few notable bits of news, I suppose. Refunds for games has been highlighted a few times in the community.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Which is great. It's great if you've played less than 2 hours, you can just log onto the app, request a refund, and the money just goes back into your account.
It's good to know they're supporting that because obviously with this world with like digital products and so on, some people can be kind of like, oh, I don't really like it. So how do you actually deal with that? It's nice to know that Google are taking a very proactive approach to it.
What do you think would happen if I try to refund Samurai Showdown?
You got it for free, so nothing.
They'd probably refund
think-
you a
you
total
think-
of £0.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Imagine if they didn't realise and you got the full or Destiny's full collection pack for 70 quid back.
I think you're
Mm,
walking into fraud territory there.
No, not if they give me it. As a quick point, actually, as a personal note, I've seen people mention you can use Google Play credits, and for those of you who are using an Android mobile device out there, you can download an app called Google Play Rewards. The icon shows up as a little trophy with a star, and it's called Rewards. And basically, if you travel around much, it prompts you to fill out a short survey based on your location, whether you've been to a restaurant, somewhere public, or just visited some shopping areas. Always quick, literally 10-second surveys. Have you been in here? What were the facilities like? It asks me sometimes around YouTube videos. Is this a good recommendation for you? Again, just Google building up their algorithm kind of facts. But what they do in return is give you a couple of pounds, credits worth of money. So to give you an idea, my reward history takes me right back, I think, to 2018 or 17 when I started. But so far, I've accrued £88 worth of credit. And if you're going to be able to use that to purchase Stadia games, as you can do from the Play Store, I've purchased many Pokeballs using this survey credit. For those out there using Android, download it, use it.
Yeah,
it literally is free money for filling out a short survey.
I haven't been using it. It's been installed just because I very rarely buy anything from Google Play. But now, if it works with Stadia, I'm going to start. But interestingly, I can actually game the system a bit because I live next door to a sports centre, and pretty much every day when I get home, ask me how my experience at the sports centre was.
Yeah, the more you reply to the surveys, the more they send you. I've found when I work away from home and I visit a few different locations, I get hammered with them. But then because I answer, say, 2-3 a day, I tend to find I get more. Whereas when I take 2 weeks off from work, I don't get any because I'm generally just sat at home. So it's clearly based on location and movement, and you have to interact with places. But the more you answer, the more you get. And like I said, it's free money, so download it, get on it.
Speaking of surveys, gents, how has your gaming experience been with Stadia? Following every single game that you play,
not every single game, but it can fuck off.
Yeah, that's a good shout, Tom. Yeah, please rate excellent, good, average. Yeah. They're obviously they've got their Google hats on, and they're trying to gain as much feedback as possible. But it is a bit irritating. Same with the little EU terms condition that pops up when you launch any game. It's the little tick box that it overlays over the beginning of the game.
Okay.
Again, it's just something small, but it doesn't need to be there.
It's a pet hate of mine that you can't do anything at the moment without someone wanting you to fill out a bloody survey. Like, I bought a comb off eBay and then got hounded with emails to review it. It's a bloody comb.
It's going to happen. So
it works. My hair is tidy.
Yeah. So for those of you listening at home, if you could head over to surveymonkey.com/Sounds of Stadia, we'd love to hear your feedback on this week's episode.
Is that a genuine thing?
No, it's not a genuine thing. No, don't.
I
mean, we can if people want to commit to the bit. But yeah, I think Tom, you had one little piece of news. I think you had it on the doc.
I did, yeah. I actually thought this was pretty cool of Google. So the Stadia team announced that they're working closely with a charity called Able Gamers, who were involved in the development of the Xbox Adaptive Controller for Microsoft. So the idea is that they want to try and develop technology to make Stadia more accessible for people who have, unfortunately, suffered from life-changing illnesses, whether that might be like the loss of a limb or they might be suffering from, some chronic illness that might make it less likely for them to be able to experience games the same way that we do. And I think it's really, really cool of Google to actually try to sort of take the step forward with working together and making it very public that they want to make Stadia, which is already arguably more accessible because of the way it works, to make the controller schemes and the way people can actually experience the games be more accessible too. So you can read the tweets about it online. I'll share it over with the Sounds of Stadia Twitter account as well. But I think it's a really good guy Google type move right here. It's really good.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
I was actually watching a YouTube video by a guy called Mark Brown the other day. He has a YouTube site called Games Maker's Toolkit, and he's done a very, very interesting thing on how accessibility's changed over the last year. It came out about a day ago. It's definitely worth a watch.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. So I think one of the only other bits of news that we pulled out of this week, was that you could also play. So, although Google say you're not allowed or you're not supposed to be able to allowed, I've seen a lot of people playing Stadia on devices that aren't officially verified. So I trialed this a little bit. I played Tomb Raider on my Samsung tablet, running on 4G. So I'm happy to say it streamed perfectly fine. I linked up a PlayStation DualShock 4 controller via Bluetooth, and the only stumbling block I mentioned in the pre-show, was that it totally messes up your button configuration, potentially on purpose. I know you can go into the settings and reconfigure, but I don't know if that's a set map layout. But it was running seamlessly, except for the L1 was the menu, jump was a different button, trigger opened up the map, and it's kind of
it just adds a different challenge to the game, Chris.
It's definitely a challenge, but it functions as expected. If anyone wants to trial it, you simply open up a cruise browser, Chrome browser. It's going to run along. Chrome browser. Simply go to desktop mode on the Stadia website, and it plays the game. I believe it works fine with a mouse and keyboard if you have a Bluetooth mouse and keyboard to hook up to a tablet. But it's good to see that their initial kind of vision of it just running from a Chrome browser works seamlessly, and evidently it's very hard to lock down.
But now let me just clarify:
devices.
it does not work on iOS. I
Really?
tried it. Yeah, it does not work on iOS. The Chrome browser on iOS is actually not really Chrome. Yeah, it's an app, but it's actually more of a reskin of Safari. So in the back end of things, it doesn't work. It still says you need to use the official app and so on as well. So once again, guys, those of you who are Apple devotees,
Sort your life out.
Sort your life out.
Couldn't have said it better myself, Richie.
So that moves us swiftly then on to our final segment of the week, which is just games we played. Yeah. So who wants to start us off? What have you been playing this week, gents? Aside from the aforementioned Destiny 2.
I think there's only me who's got one that we haven't already mentioned this show.
Really?
Yeah, because we've all played Destiny 2. You two have played Jedi Fallen Order. Me and you've played Tomb Raider, Chris. It's only Persona 5 for me on the list.
Persona 5. Still chipping away at that.
Still chipping away?
Still chipping away.
Very good.
Enjoying it?
Yeah, it's really good.
Still going to play it?
Yeah.
Wish it was on Stadia?
Yep.
Good.
I've probably got about 800 more hours left to play.
Yeah, there's a fair few you got there. Are you still working on the second castle at the moment, or are you past the second one?
I'm on to the third.
Oh, cool. Okay.
I mean, I've been ill this week, so I spent quite a lot of time at home lying on the couch feeling sorry for myself, and Persona was a nice companion for that.
Nice.
Was that sick note conveniently timed with Stadia's launch, Richie?
Inconveniently timed because my delivery. I set my delivery for work, so my Stadia package came to work while I was at home sick on the couch.
Well, that backfired.
Yeah. It's just one of them things.
But yeah, I think quickly we need to mention it, Tom, because the game's so damn good.
Yes.
Jedi Fallen Order. We won't spend too long on it, but I know everyone out there who's probably got Stadia now probably started their week off by playing Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Initial thoughts?
I absolutely love this game. Like, this is the perfect balance of Star Wars lore and that Dark Souls style gameplay mixed with that Metroidvania type, like explore, go back, like get new powers, then be able to access new areas. I fucking love it. I'm literally eating it up. I'm eating it up so much.
I'm exactly the same.
I've got to say, have you beaten it now?
I've finished it.
Okay, fine.
Completely finished it. So
I'm not going to
obviously
spoil
no
it.
spoilers here.
No. Not going to spoil anything, but I would strongly suggest when you get the opportunity to go to Dathomir. There's a nice little surprise there.
That could have been a spoiler right there.
Nah.
I didn't know Dathomir was in the game.
There's
so
a lot of
spoiled that
planets
for
there.
me.
I'm sorry if that's a spoiler.
Do you know where that is though, Richie? in the grand
No, but
scheme.
it's still a spoiler. Still a spoiler.
I was going to say, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
maybe mild spoiler. So there's a lot of
Not a
planets you
spoiler
can
at
go
all.
to, but one of the two planets you can go to, one of them is story-driven, one of them isn't. I'd suggest you go to the non-story-driven planet first, because in my opinion, that was a really nice little thing that you could do there.
That's what I did, and I think in hindsight, after wrapping it all up, there is about 4, maybe 5 story beats in the campaign that, as a huge Star Wars fan, really made me just sit back and be like, "Holy shit, they're doing this!" And I was it was just kind of like there was such like chapter beats, which again, you're right, Tom, in the way it kind of blends in with pre-existing lore, but also creates its own story in like the wider scope of that era, which is post Order 66, in flashback scenes and stuff to do with the Jedi being wiped out. For those who haven't seen Revenge of the Sith, sorry for that spoiler there. It ties
For those
in
who haven't
so
seen
well.
New Hope.
For those who've not seen that since 1977. But yeah, really can't sing its praise anymore. I just want more of it. It's one of those games where I wrap up and finish a story and I just want more. And now I'm currently going through and collecting all the hidden secrets and surprises. And the story within the collectibles, it does very similar to The Last of Us. There's loads of collectibles that build a story based on what you find. So I'm actually I've finished the campaign and I'm just retracing those Metroid-esque levels and find little hidey holes and secret exploration areas. I'm piecing together little notes of other characters, and because of my knowledge of the movies and the Clone Wars show and everything, it ties that in so nicely that I have good points of reference for what I'm reading. It's not just a random story. And yeah, I need DLC. I can't wait another 4 years till the sequel to this comes out. No. I need either more or it to come to Stadia, and I'll buy it and play it all again.
I'm not going to make this a PlayStation specific or a Star Wars specific podcast, but I do have to ask quickly. There were a lot of comments online about certain bugs in this game. Have you come across any of these bugs, Chris?
Because I'm the lightsaber.
I have.
You saying bugs as in ones that you kill?
No, I'm talking about issues in the
game.
I
was going to say, because you're not allowed to dismember humanoid creatures like stormtroopers and stuff.
But you can slice a rat in half.
But some little bugs and rats and stuff, you can absolutely go to town on them, yeah.
In a Star Wars game, I can cut someone's arm off with a lightsaber.
Not a human, like someone who
has...
In
a Star Wars game.
Yes.
It's
a family
weird.
thing at the end.
You can't do it to the stormtroopers, like the humanoid things, but the giant beasts and things, they'll easily let you lop an arm off.
And stuff. Yeah, you
don't know that stormtrooper's humanoid.
It's one of them rules. But to be fair, when you hack at them, it does show you like the big orange kind of burn, like that traditional lightsaber kind of melted plastic and metal or whatever it may be.
It's probably
quite frankly, in the speed in which a lot of it happens, you might as well sever their limbs because it looks no different almost in the moment. But yeah, just the abilities you unlock. The skill tree is fantastic as well. The music score is very quintessential Star Wars. And yeah, Tom, you've got to message me as soon as you get to some of these reveal points because like I spoke to Gary who finished it before me. Shout out to Gary again. And I had to message him straight away because I needed to talk about these moments, and it just made me be like, I need more, especially the ending as well, like the last half an hour.
I have to say, from a few of the discussions, again, I'm not going to say anything on this, but there's a few points that I've seen so far which have made me go, did that just happen? Like, did I actually just see what I thought I saw?
Yeah.
And then, but then, like, where I was going with it before about asking you about, like, buggy experiences and so on.
Yeah.
The reason I say that is because one of the planets I went to, I had a moment where shadows got messed up in the game to the point that the shadows turned into giant black squares. And I'm talking like if you stepped around the side of a building, the shadow became a black square on the screen. It fucked my game up.
Right. Yeah, they're the Black Squarians from the Sector 7.
That's in the lore.
I see. So it's
out
not
beyond the Rishi Maze or whatever it's called.
So where I was going with this was, it's a real shame that they haven't pulled it to Stadia because, again, I feel like there's certain elements. I'm not running a PS4 Pro. I'm running original day one PS4. So it is quite an old console now. It's quite, it's had its days. But I do feel like there are parts where the game sort of stutters, it loses a few frames, or I have a few bugs like that. And I just think that something like that brought to Stadia would actually just like overall build the experience up. And it's beautiful anyway.
And hopefully that's what they're waiting for. They're waiting to get the best version, because I don't think it's available on PC. Oh yes, it is available on PC. Sorry, because it was EA coming back to the Steam again. It was available on there. I'm not sure. I had a few moments of frame rate drops. I think when there's multiple characters on screen and stuff, and there's a few moments when you go about to step into a new section of a level, when a door opens and it froze for a good 5 to 10 seconds. You know, that panic moment where you expect the blue screen of death or shut down the game or something to come up, where the audio was still playing, but your character was just kind of stuck in motion, almost like someone had force frozen there, just like Kylo Ren can do. But spoilers. Very far and few between. And I think, for what the game is, the scope they're going for, it could be better, as all things could be. But I think for the finished product that they've got, it's just like any game that comes out. I experienced the same thing in Control earlier in the summer, and I think it's just natural now. With games are so large and there's so much processing going on at any given time. Yeah, Stadia would definitely benefit from that. So hopefully we'll see by Christmas maybe.
But overall, incredible game. Absolutely loving it. Will definitely aim to 100% it, Platinum Trophy. But likewise, I'd like to see the trophy on Stadia. So EA, give me the goods. Just hand it over.
Now I'm in a problem, because I've been sat here quietly listening to you, going, I really need to play this fucking game. But do I buy it on PlayStation or do I wait for Stadia?
I don't know. That's a decision only you can make, Richie.
Maybe it's
just do or do not. There is no try. That's the one thing.
Maybe it's a decision now patrons can make for me.
They could do, yeah. Could do both.
A new Patreon tier, buy Richie games.
Yeah. Well, I mentioned it on previous episodes, and this is Star Wars is definitely taking over my festive period. We've got The Mandalorian, we've got Jedi Fallen Order, we've got Rise of Skywalker in several weeks. So get hyped for that. But that unfortunately does bring us to the end of the games we played here section. Again, we don't mean to focus too much on non-Stadia games, but this podcast is about gaming all over the place, and I don't want to just caveat it to things that are exclusive to Stadia or not, because that's as gamers, I'd like to think we play wherever the games go. That's why we're at Stadia right now.
As Stadia takes off, more games will come to Stadia. We buy more games on Stadia, so we'll probably be playing less things elsewhere. Apart from
the plan. Yeah, that's the plan.
That's the plan. So it'll get smaller.
Console exclusives.
Exactly. We're going to go where the games go. Just like hopefully you'll go where the quality content goes, which is right over here on Sounds of Stadia. So I think that's all we've got time for next week's show. And it once again is the longest episode to date, which I hope is good news for you listening. I just want to give a special shout out to our fellow Stadia friends and Patreon supporters, Rob and Miles. They've given us some really good solid feedback and support over the last few weeks, and I just want to recognize them for that. So thank you very much. And thank you to those out there for listening to this week's show. Remember, you can find us on all the major podcasting platforms such as Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts, and more, or search us out on YouTube. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you are kept in the loop as the content goes live. So now is the future, everyone. Stadia is live, and the cloud will never be the same again. It's goodbye from me, it's goodbye from Tom, and a slow, soft smirk from Richie.
Goodbye.
There it is. We've been Sounds of Stadia. Thank you for listening. Now go and get your game on. Goodbye.
We'll see you in Destiny 2.
Maybe, if the servers don't go down. Bye.
Bye.